Topping today's news, the Labor Minister reacts to the latest unemployment statistics. The Foreign Affairs Minister disagrees with President Donald Trump on climate change. A veteran American wildlife law enforcement officer working to prevent poaching from Florida. And we get an update on the $35 million hydroponic farm initiative launched earlier this year. This is your JCN Evening News. I'm Jareno Saunders. Thank you so much for joining us. Labor Minister Pia Glover-Rowell says the recently released labor survey for the first quarter of 2025 does not reflect the current state of the labor market. The statistics were released this week. However, the minister does express concern about long-term issues with employment and unemployability, particularly among youth populations. In a press release, Minister Glover-Rowell said the survey, which showed the unemployment rate at the first quarter at 10.8%, was conducted between January and March, reflecting cyclical contractions within the labor market due to seasonal layoffs, as well as wider trends in the construction and tourism industries. She added that during this time, labor force participation has increased from 74.8% in late 2024 to 76% in early 2025. This means more Bahamians entered the job market and are now actively seeking work. She said while this has contributed to the increase in the unemployment rate, it also signals confidence in the economy and increased desire among Bahamians to engage in work. On Tuesday, at the 80th session of the United Nations General Assembly, United States President Donald Trump once again expressed his lack of support for efforts to fight climate change, describing it as the greatest con job ever perpetrated in the world, as he urged developed countries not to engage in measures to lower their carbon footprint. Well, the Bahamas Minister of Foreign Affairs, Fred Mitchell, who is part of Prime Minister Philip Davis's delegation to New York, totally disagrees with Mr. Trump.
Let me put it this way. We, the Bahamas, believe that climate change is real, no matter who says otherwise. We suffered Hurricane Dorian, lost almost 1,200 people. We're still missing some of them. One of the reasons we struggle to keep the roads paved in New Providence is because the water table is rising, making the roads in the subsoil unstable. We can list more. And we are continuing to work with countries around the world to increase the use of technology and decrease our carbon footprint. It doesn't matter whether you believe it or you don't believe it. Science is still true. I repeat, climate change is real and existential for the Bahamas, no matter who says otherwise. The projections are, if we do nothing by the year 2070, 30% of New Providence will be underwater, and by the end of the century, 70% will be underwater if we do nothing.
While at the United Nations General Assembly, the Prime Minister will attend several high-level events focused on climate action, renewable energy, sustainable development, and regional cooperation. Illegal poaching in the Bahamas and Bahamian waters continues to be a serious concern for officials. Speaking at a recent press conference, Senior Wild Aid Law Enforcement Advisor Mike Sensi from the U.S. explained the harm that foreign boat operators, mainly from Florida, are causing not only to the economy, but also to the country's natural resources.
There is an impact to Bahamian businesses, there's an impact to your natural resources, which are limited, and these freeloaders should not be coming here illegally competing with Bahamian citizens and taking advantage, frankly, of your goodwill in this wonderful country. Regardless of how strong the partnership is with law enforcement, and it's very strong, as demonstrated by Red Dawn 1, Red Dawn 2, and potentially 3, 4, 5, 6, 7.
The Minister of Agriculture and Marine Resources, Jomo Campbell, noted that protecting Bahamian waters is just one part of the fight. He said enforcement efforts also extend into Florida, where officials are stepping up patrols and prosecutions.
As of late, there have been dozens of cases of illegal charters and fishers in Florida. When persons return home through the efforts of Florida laws and also the Lacey Act, there have been dozens of convictions, fines and penalties paid. And so our efforts are now reaching across to our big brothers in the north, and we share an extremely strong partnership and time with them. So you may see from time to time a lot of videos on TikToks with people fishing in excess of the regulations, without permits, without stopping the customs and border patrol, and we want the public to know it's not the end of it there. The prosecution department in Florida does a tremendous job, just as our prosecution department here in the Bahamas does. So it's a continuous effort.
Officials say collaboration proves that protecting marine resources is a shared responsibility across borders. They are hoping that word of the increased security efforts spread to other Americans who engage in illegal commercial fishing in Bahamian waters. And finally, in this segment, in May this year, the government signed a memorandum of understanding for a $35 million hydroponic farming initiative on New Providence, also on Grand Bahama, Abaco, Andros, and Cat Island. The project is expected to place a dent in the country's billion-dollar food import bill and modernize the agricultural sector. At a recent press conference, the Minister of Agriculture and Marine Resources, Mr. Jomo Campbell, was asked for an update on the public-private partnership initiative.
The hydroponic initiative is moving quite steadily. Due to the fact that there are foreign partners involved, we just want to ensure that we satisfy our legal obligations, and that is where we are now with the Office of the Attorney General. We actually have a meeting set for today, immediately after this press conference, for an update on that, so we can move forward. But the demand is being tremendous, and it's been really remarkable to see the demand for Bahamian produced product, and so we're going to do our best to ensure that we meet that demand on behalf of the Bahamian public.
The Bahamas currently imports over 90% of the food that we consume. The MOU includes the Government of the Bahamas, Bahamian-based Sustainable Technology Limited, and Indian-based vertical farming leaders, Urban Kisan. We'll take a break here. We'll be right back following these commercials.